Hello, my name is swissbianco. In this video I will talk about the history of metal scales for the 91mm Victorinox Swiss Army knife. Swissbianco works for over 10 years on the idea to make metal scales for the 91mm. The benefit on such scales would be that we could make it in plus, which means we could have all the possible small tools in the scales, plus on top of it we would have a possible pattern, in this case here a waffle pattern, so that the whole item would not be that slippery in your hand. If you look at regular plastic scaled Swiss Army knives in the 91mm variation, those scales, they come in many different colors and variation, either in the smooth Celidor or in a bit more slip resistant nylon variation. They are simply too fragile and too slippery. They break easy off. If you drop the knife, that's gonna fall relative easy off. It also breaks in certain parts relative easy because it's just a skeleton plastic injection molded part, so that is snapped on in place instead of using a glue, industrial grade glue, or even better, a screw together construction, because the design of that knife is relative old. So that was back then a high-tech, but as we have now 2016, that is not high-tech or near high-tech anymore. So the idea was to make an upgrade in metal, also to test out the know-how. It was relatively hard to find a possible way to manufacture those scales. Also, those scales should not be too bulky. First we did, or relative from start on, we did check with Victorinox, with Mr. Elsener, and he finally decided that he not gonna help with that project, so we do that as our own swissbianco product. As we look at the first prototype from this series, what we have on the table, there were some other variations even way prior that. We see that it was a bit too blocky. We see on the outside we don't have a good radius on this variation. Inside it's pretty well made in this way how they did machine it. Outside the waffle pattern gives already a good traction, is well made. We selected the cross symbol, the Swiss cross there for the logo on it, like in the old style Swiss Army knives or Swiss multi-tools, how you want to call it. So that is all legal and good there. If Mr. Elsener would have helped with that project, we would have be able to use the Victorinox logo, but that is how that is. On the back side we had on this model the same finish, also with the plus inlays in there. This one here I did custom round off more on the corners, just to show how that should be. We see here the second model is way more rounded off in the corners as that blocky one on top there. Hopefully the camera see that. So that is custom handmade. Then we had a middle version that came pretty close. We did also test some anodizing out. Again, those the silver, the green and the blue, grayish bluish, is in aluminium. So we did test out a bit anodizing how that would look, and the green is a version of the Apocalypse green that we are famous for here by swissbianco, and we're gonna try that for sure again as a serial run as well. We see here that it is a bit more on the semi-matte finish. It's not absolute shiny, so that gives it a bit a satin finish. What is still really great is the feeling in your hand. That waffle pattern feels really good in your hand if you have it first time in your hand compared to a regular plastic. Then we had the copper variation. We did want to go with the copper first. Prior we do aluminium because copper is currently in high fashion here in USA. Copper is a unique metal and not that easy to CNC mill as with aluminium. That is more sticky on the copper. The price of the copper raw material is also higher, of course. So that is a prototype in copper. We see also here it's still the more blocky style that we have on the first aluminium. We see it's not that much rounded off, so it's also more blocky and more heavy in that variation here, but the small parts are already in there, and this is a prototype, so that's gonna stay like that in the Swiss Bianco study collection. Then here we have the serial made version. This one already has a bit patina on it. We see that it is nicely rounded off on the corner here all around, so you have a way smoother feel in your hand. It's not that blocky, and the thickness is on a minimum. We have to see it's metal, so the difference between the plastic one and the metal one is only that we added the needed thickness for the waffle pattern on top of it to make it as light and as thin as possible by adding all the small tools. Those scales again are in plus. That means that it has the pen and the pin in it, not only the toothpick and the tweezer, but also the pen and the pin. So you have the maximum of the possible tools in that compact packaging. The mounting of the scales, I did make a separate video on the Swiss Bianco YouTube channel. That is relatively easy. You can let the copper get patina on it. It depends on how you like it, or you can simply leave it like fresh from the factory, like it is inside the protective bag. That is up to you. It's easy to clean it off again too. You just need to be careful if you're using chemicals with the aluminium and the plastic parts that may your Swiss Army knife may have inside. It depends. What is also possible is a clear coat. If you take it out of the bag, maybe clean it a last time, and then you clear coat it, and then you're gonna mount it if you want to have a really shiny variation of the copper. For me personally, the patina is for sure something unique. Copper lives, and that changes the surface over time, unlike aluminium that just stay how it is pretty much, other than scratches and damaging. The copper that changes the surface because of the patina, so that is really unique. The weight of the copper is a little bit higher than aluminium or a plastic. Of course, it's a metal, but as I say, we did keep it on a minimum thickness with the added waffle, so that it is as light as possible. It gives you a secure feel in the hand with the waffle pattern. It's way less slip resistant. It even gives you a better feel in the hand as a 91 millimeter waffle pattern, because we have more coarse waffles on it. That just as a sample, this splashed one that it gives you a unique feel, plus the small parts in it as well. Now for the future, there will different more materials gonna come, different more finishes, colors and so on, so everybody that has such a knife can upgrade from a cheap plastic to a version in a metal that they want. It's really easy to mount them, so that is not the problem either. And by all the millions of 91mm Victorinox Swiss Army knives out there, it's easy to select a model and then upgrade it with metal scales from swissbianco. So that much about the history of the 91mm all metal scales from swissbianco.